In a heartbeat, Ymir's life flashed before his eyes as a missile slammed into his scout ship, alarms blaring. The young Iconian explorer plummeted toward the battle-scarred surface of Earth, trailing flames across the night sky. He had come to this uncharted world consumed by endless wars, hoping to forge a path toward peace. But humanity's penchant for violence already threatened to destroy him. Ymir's curiosity about the transmissions from Earth had driven him to steal a prototype ship and embark on this secret mission, despite resistance from an Iconian empire hesitant to engage with such a volatile species. Some in the government even pushed for a preemptive strike, but Ymir believed he could guide humans to a higher path. Now, caught between rival human factions locked in orbital combat, the true extent of humanity's destructive potential and remarkable capabilities became starkly apparent. Outmatched by Ymir's advanced ship, they still fought with astonishing tenacity and skill. The transmissions had barely hinted at what humans were truly capable of, for good or ill. As Ymir crawled from his ruined ship, battered and bleeding, he found a dozen rifle barrels aimed at his chest. The soldiers of the United Earth Defense Force regarded him with fear and awe. Sergeant Eric Coleman, a hardened veteran disillusioned by the ceaseless conflicts, stepped forward. Human and Iconian locked eyes, the fate of their civilizations suddenly intertwined by this fateful crash landing. In that moment, a chance encounter between two vastly different beings carried the potential to reshape the future of the galaxy itself. But on a world where peace seemed like a futile dream, could this unexpected first contact lead to anything but mutual destruction? Ymir feared he had just signed his own death warrant by coming to Earth. He would soon discover if humanity was ready to step back from the brink, or if his mission of hope would become a devastating cautionary tale for the ages. Sergeant Eric Coleman's grip tightened on his rifle as he studied the alien before him. Ymir's large dark eyes held a mix of fear and hope, his slender frame trembling slightly. The other soldiers kept their weapons trained on the visitor, fingers hovering over triggers. "Stand down," Coleman ordered, lowering his own rifle. "This one's not a threat." He stepped closer to Ymir, hands raised in a calming gesture. "Can you understand me?" Ymir nodded slowly. "I can." His voice was soft and lilting, with an almost musical quality. Coleman turned to his squad. "Lopez, radio command. Tell them we've got a code black. First contact situation. Davis, help me get our guest here to the transport. And be careful with him, damn it. The rest of you, secure the perimeter." As the soldiers hustled to carry out his orders, Coleman placed a steadying hand on Ymir's shoulder. The alien flinched at first, then relaxed slightly. Together they limped toward the waiting APC, Ymir leaning heavily on the sergeant for support. During the tense ride to the UEDF facility, Coleman studied Ymir closely. Even wounded and exhausted, there was a quiet dignity about the alien, an aura of wisdom and compassion that set him apart from anyone Coleman had ever known. At the base, Ymir was ushered into a stark interrogation room. He sat calmly, wincing occasionally from his injuries, as a parade of officials grilled him for hours. Some, like the sharp-eyed intelligence officer Lieutenant Nguyen, approached him with genuine curiosity. Others, such as the hulking General Zhukov, viewed him with open suspicion and even hostility. Through it all, Ymir remained patient and forthright, explaining his mission of peace and his hopes for building a bridge between their worlds. Coleman, watching from behind the one-way glass, found himself increasingly drawn to this strange visitor and his vision of a better future. In the days that followed, as Ymir recuperated under heavy guard, Coleman spent every spare moment at his side. They talked for hours, sharing stories of their lives, their peoples, and their dreams. Coleman spoke of Earth's troubled history, of the wars and conflicts that had ravaged the planet for generations. In turn, Ymir painted a picture of Iconian society, a civilization that had largely outgrown violence and learned to live in harmony. "We were once much like you," Ymir said softly, his dark eyes distant, "consumed by anger, fear, and hatred, but we found a better way, and I believe you can too." Coleman felt a glimmer of hope at those words. But that hope turned to ashes when he overheard a clandestine meeting between General Zhukov and his inner circle. They spoke of Ymir not as a potential ally, but as a resource to be exploited, a key to unlocking Iconian technology and using it to make humanity the undisputed masters of the galaxy. Horror and disgust rising in his throat, Coleman confided in Lieutenant Nguyen, one of the few officers he knew he could trust. Together they hatched a desperate plan to get Ymir to safety and prevent the UEDF leadership from plunging humanity into an interstellar war it could never hope to win. With Nguyen creating a diversion, Coleman broke Ymir out of confinement and led him in a daring escape through the labyrinthine corridors of the base. Alarms blared and soldiers shouted as they raced toward the hangar where Ymir's damaged ship was being held. They burst into the cavernous space to find Nguyen already there, frantically working to bypass the security protocols on the alien craft. But just as they reached the ship, the hangar doors slammed open, revealing General Zhukov and a heavily armed strike team. "Step away from that ship," Zhukov bellowed, his face twisted with rage. "That alien is UEDF property now." Coleman moved to shield Ymir, his rifle snapping up to aim at his former comrades. "He's not property, you bastard. He's a living being, and I won't let you use him to start a war we can't win." Nguyen glanced up from her work, eyes wide with fear and tenacity. She gave Coleman a small nod, then turned back to the ship, fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls. As the firefight erupted around them, Coleman felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. He knew, with a certainty that came from the depths of his soul, that this was a defining moment, not just for him, but for all of humanity. The choices made here, in this blood-soaked hangar, would echo across the stars for generations to come. Bullets pinged off the hull of Ymir's ship as Nguyen let out a triumphant shout. The alien engines thrummed to life, a shimmering force field snapping into place around the craft. Coleman dragged Ymir up the ramp, pausing at the threshold to look back at Nguyen. "Jenna," he called out, desperation straining his voice. "Come on!" But Nguyen just smiled sadly and shook her head. "Someone has to buy you time. Get him out of here, Eric. Tell the Iconians what happened. Make this count." With a final, anguished look, Coleman sealed the ship's hatch. As the craft lifted off, he caught a glimpse of Nguyen through the view screen, surrounded by UEDF troops. She fought like a demon, taking down soldier after soldier, until a hail of gunfire finally cut her down. Tears stinging his eyes, Coleman turned to Ymir, who sat at the unfamiliar controls, guiding the ship up and out through the shattered roof of the hangar. The alien's face was a mask of sorrow and grim persistence. As they broke atmosphere and hurtled into the stars, leaving Earth behind, Coleman knew that his life, and the future of two worlds, had been forever changed. He was committed now, bound by blood and sacrifice, to the cause of peace between humanity and Iconia. No matter the challenges ahead, he would see that cause through to the end. For Jennifer Nguyen, and for all the other lost souls consumed by the fires of war. The Iconian homeworld of Astera loomed before them, a shimmering blue-green orb wreathed in gossamer rings. Coleman's breath caught in his throat as Ymir guided their battered ship toward the planet's surface. "It's beautiful," he whispered, pressing his face to the viewport. Ymir nodded, a hint of pride in his voice. "Welcome to my home, Eric." As they descended through the atmosphere, Coleman marveled at the gleaming spires and verdant parks of the Iconian capital. The city seemed to blend seamlessly with the natural landscape, a harmony of technology and nature that put Earth's crowded metropolises to shame. Their arrival did not go unnoticed. A swarm of sleek, silvery craft surrounded them, escorting the ship to a massive docking bay. As the hatch opened, Coleman found himself face to face with a contingent of Iconian officials, their expressions a mix of curiosity and wariness. Chancellor Zoran stepped forward, his aged face etched with lines of wisdom and concern. "Ymir, you have much to answer for, and you," he turned to Coleman, "are a most unexpected guest." The days that followed were a whirlwind of debriefings, medical examinations, and tense discussions. Coleman found himself thrust into the center of a political maelstrom as the Iconian High Council debated the ramifications of Ymir's rogue mission. In a cavernous chamber adorned with holographic star charts, Ymir pleaded his case. "Esteemed Council, I have seen the true face of humanity. Yes, they are capable of great violence, but also of great compassion. With our guidance, they could become valuable allies. General Kira, a stern-faced Iconian with cybernetic enhancements, glinting at her temples, scoffed. Allies? They nearly killed you. We must strike now before they spread their chaos to the stars. Coleman, watching from a secluded alcove, felt the weight of two civilizations on his shoulders. He knew he had to find a way to bridge the gap between their peoples, to show the Iconians that humanity was worth saving. During a recess in the debates, Coleman found himself wandering the halls of the Science Academy. There, he met Arya, Ymir's sister. Her eyes lit up with fascination as Coleman described Earth's diverse ecosystems and cultures. "Your world sounds so vibrant, so full of potential," Arya said, her fingers dancing over a holographic display of the Milky Way. "If only we could find a way to share our knowledge, to learn from each other." Their budding friendship gave Coleman hope, but that hope was shattered when news arrived of the ambush on the Iconian recon vessel. The council erupted into chaos, with General Kira demanding immediate retaliation. Ymir pulled Coleman aside, his face grim. "We must act now before it's too late. I have a plan, but it's dangerous." As they prepared for their secret mission to Earth, Coleman couldn't shake the feeling that they were hurtling toward a point of no return. The fate of two worlds hung in the balance, and he prayed they would find a way to tip the scales toward peace. Peace. As their ship hurtled through the vastness of space, Coleman's mind raced. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and time was running out. "We're approaching Earth," Ymir announced, his slender fingers dancing across the ship's controls. "But something's wrong. I'm detecting massive energy signatures. A battle." Coleman leaned forward, squinting at the holographic display. His heart sank as he saw the swarm of vessels locked in combat near his home planet. "We're too late," he whispered. Ymir's dark eyes narrowed. "No, we can still stop this." As they drew closer, the full scale of the conflict became apparent. Iconian battleships, sleek and angular, traded fire with Earth's more rudimentary but numerous vessels. Explosions bloomed silently in the void, debris and bodies drifting in the aftermath. "What happened?" Coleman demanded, gripping the edge of his seat. "This can't be right. The Council was sending a diplomatic envoy, not an invasion force." Ymir's face was grim. Something must have gone terribly wrong. They intercepted a fragmented transmission, the voice of General Zhukov crackling through their comms. "Treacherous aliens assassinated Chancellor Zoran. All Earth forces, engage the enemy, show no mercy." "No," Ymir breathed, his normally stoic features twisted in anguish. "Zoran would never. This is a lie." Coleman's teeth gritted. "Zhukov, that bastard's behind this. He's playing both sides." As they watched, a massive human warship, Zhukov's command vessel, launched a devastating barrage against an Iconian cruiser. The alien ship's shields flared and failed, its hull rupturing in a silent explosion. "We have to stop this," Coleman said, turning to Ymir. "But how? We're just two people in one small ship." Ymir's eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Not necessarily. My sister Arya, she was working on a top-secret project, a way to end conflicts without bloodshed." "Where is she?" "An outpost in the Devran system. It's not far." Coleman nodded grimly. "Then that's where we're going." Their ship slipped away from the battle, engaging its experimental folding drive. The stars blurred around them as they hurtled across light years in mere moments. They emerged above a barren, rocky world, a single gleaming structure perched on its pockmarked surface. As they landed, Arya burst from the facility, her eyes wide with fear and relief. "Ymir, when we lost contact, I feared the worst." She embraced her brother, then turned to Coleman with curiosity. "You brought a human here?" "There's no time to explain," Ymir said urgently. "The project you were working on, is it operational?" Arya nodded, leading them inside. "It's ready but untested. I call it the nullifier. It can disable energy systems across a wide area without harming organic life." "Perfect," Coleman said. "But how do we get it close enough to the battle?" Arya gestured to a sleek vessel in the hangar. This prototype can outrun anything in either fleet, and its stealth systems should get you past the battle lines. As they prepared to depart, Ymir turned to his sister. Arya, if we fail... She silenced him with a touch. You won't. Now go, save both our peoples. The journey back to Earth was tense. Coleman and Ymir acutely aware of the lives hanging in the balance. As they approached the war zone, Coleman activated the ship's stealth systems. There, Ymir pointed to a massive vessel at the heart of the human fleet. Zhukov's command ship. If we can get aboard... Coleman nodded grimly. Then let's do it. They docked with the hulking warship, slipping aboard amidst the chaos of battle. Alarms blared as they fought their way through corridors, filled with panicked crew members. Finally, they reached the bridge. Zhukov spun to face them, his eyes widening in shock. Coleman, you dare... But before he could finish, Ymir activated the nullifier. A wave of energy pulsed outward, and suddenly every system on the ship went dark. Through the viewports, they watched as ship after ship in both fleets lost power, weapons falling silent. Coleman grabbed the comm system. This is Sergeant Eric Coleman of Earth and Ymir of Iconia. We've disabled your ships to give you all a chance to stop this madness. Listen to us, please. As the power slowly returned, both fleets hung motionless in space. The fate of two civilizations balanced on a knife's edge, with the next move yet to be made. The tension on the bridge was palpable as Coleman's voice echoed through the comms. Seconds stretched into eternity as they waited for a response from either fleet. Suddenly, a crackle of static broke the silence. This is Admiral Zhao of the Iconian High Command. We are receptive to dialogue. A collective exhale swept through the bridge, but before anyone could celebrate, another voice cut through, gruff, authoritative, and unmistakably human. Earth Command acknowledges. Ceasefire maintained, for now. Coleman turned to Ymir, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. But that hope was short-lived. Alarms blared as sensors lit up with new contacts. A group of human ships, previously hidden behind Earth's moon, surged forward. Their energy signatures were off the charts, pulsing with strange alien tech. What the hell? Coleman breathed, watching as the rogue fleet tore through space towards the crippled Iconian command ship. Ymir's eyes widened in horror. No! Arya's on that ship! The Iconian vessel's shields flickered weakly against the barrage of exotic weaponry. Hull breaches blossomed across its surface, atmosphere venting into the void. Coleman watched, helpless, as human boarding craft latched onto the dying ship like parasites. A new transmission cut through the chaos, and Coleman's blood ran cold at the sound of a familiar voice. This is General Zhukov to all forces. The Iconian command ship is under our control. Surrender now, or watch as we pick apart your fleet, piece by piece. Ymir's fists clenched at his sides. We have to do something. My sister... Coleman nodded grimly. I know, and I think I know how. They slipped away from the bridge, commandeering a small shuttle. As they approached Zhukov's flagship, Coleman's mind raced. He'd trained under the general, knew the man's tactics, his ruthlessness. But this was madness. I'm going in alone, Coleman said as they neared the docking bay. Ymir started to protest, but Coleman cut him off. They won't shoot one of their own on sight. I can buy us time. The Iconian's expression was unreadable, but he nodded. Be careful, my friend. Coleman made his way through the familiar corridors of the human ship, his heart pounding. He rounded a corner and found himself face to face with a half-dozen armed soldiers, their weapons trained on him. Hold your fire, a voice rang out. The soldiers parted, revealing General Zhukov. His eyes were wild, his uniform disheveled. Well, well, the prodigal son returns. This has to stop, General, Coleman said, his voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. You're going to get us all killed. Zhukov's laugh was hollow. Killed? No, Sergeant. I'm going to save humanity. With Iconian tech, we'll be unstoppable. At what cost? Coleman pressed. How many more have to die? For a moment, something flickered in Zhukov's eyes. Doubt, perhaps even regret. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by cold tenacity. "Take him to the brig," Zhukov ordered. "We'll deal with this traitor later." As the soldiers moved to restrain him, Coleman caught movement out of the corner of his eye. A young officer, Lieutenant Katerina, he remembered, hesitated, her weapon lowering slightly. In that moment, Coleman knew he had one last chance to turn the tide. He took a deep breath and prepared to make his final appeal, praying it would be enough to stop this war before it consumed them all.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.